Good evening, Bucknutters. Welcome to What We Learned Live following Ohio State's 38-3 win over visiting Michigan State tonight. A lot of good to talk about. A lot of good. Buckeye, I thought that was kind of a big point spread, 32.5 points. Buckeyes covered. And it even felt like it was like bigger than that, like 38-3. It felt like, obviously they missed a field goal late. But welcome into the show. I am Dave Biddle. We're going to hear from the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic, in a few minutes to give you the latest on recruiting. Big recruiting night for the Buckeyes, with it being the only night home game of the season. After Bill, we're going to hear from JBook, Jonah Booker. And then after post-game interviews, we're going to hear from Patrick Murphy and Steve Helwagen live from Ohio Stadium. So Kyle McCord, what a great game from Kyle McCord. Dropping dime after dime, just fantastic game out of Kyle McCord. This is absolutely on point. And I'm glad we got the Marvin Harrison Jr. Heisman campaign started right here, because now Ohio State's all carrying that water for us as well. But seriously, and they keep saying things like, well, he should be in the conversation for the Heisman. It's like, no, my friends, he shouldn't be in the conversation for the Heisman. He should be the Heisman. You can't say things like, he's the best player in college football and he should be in the conversation for the Heisman. It's like, listen, we have an award for the best player in college football. And you know what? I think he's going to win it, with one caveat, a little minor thing called winning at Michigan. Got to do that. Got to win at Michigan. Will Harbaugh be on the sideline for that one? I don't know. Not if Tony Petitti has his way. And if you haven't read that 13-page report from Tony Petitti, you need to read that report. It is unbelievably good, or bad if you're a Michigan fan. So Marvin needs to win the Heisman. How about Cade Stover? He's out there maybe 70%. I don't know. Maybe more than that. He's so tough, it doesn't even matter. Could have played last week. He's banged up. Cade Stover. Kid was Mr. Football here in the state of Ohio. But did we expect Cade Stover? I thought he'd be a linebacker or a defensive end. Did we think that Cade Stover would be one of the best tight ends to come through Ohio State ever? I'm not saying he's the best. He's not the best. Like John Frank, in my opinion, is the best. John Frank is the best. There's a Ricky Dudley. There's others that are up there. I said one of the best. And I don't say it lightly, because even though Ohio State tight ends obviously have not lit it up as far as receptions, with Cade Stover now 2 straight years getting over 30 receptions. The first time any Ohio State tight end has got 30 receptions since Ben Hartsock in 2003. But there's still been a lot of good tight ends, as we know. Jeremy Ruckert was a 3rd-round pick. Van Nett, Hireman, 3rd-round picks. Luke Farrell, 5th-round pick. Jake Stoneburner was a good tight end. There's been a lot of good tight ends. Ben Hartsock himself, he was like a 2nd or 3rd-round pick himself. Man, a lot of 3rd-round picks. If Hartsock was a 3rd-round pick, that's a lot of 3rd-round picks. He might have been late 2nd, right around there. It's irrelevant. My point is, Cade Stover is one of the best tight ends we've seen come through here. I thought Travion Henderson was running the ball hard. So hard, I was like, get him out of there before he gets hurt, because he wasn't messing around. His offensive line continues to come along. I love it. I love this defense. We continue to learn this is not a good defense. It's an elite defense. It's everything you wanted out of a silver bullet defense. We continue to learn that. It's good to see guys like Kenyatta Jackson getting out there. Jordan Hancock continues to be a dude. I love the way this guy plays. He's out there he hits, he covers. Sonny Styles is doing exactly what we hope Sonny Styles would do, be that kind of bandit he can do anything. Jack of all trades, master of all. Okay? Jack of all trades, master of all. You bring in Sonny Styles on a blitz, and he's so instinctive too. You talk to people that were at that high school basketball game, state championship game a couple years ago, Devin Royal with Pick Central, all those guys from Centerville. Pick Central ended up winning. Some people are like, maybe not all season, but that game, people are like, Sonny Styles was the best guy on the floor. And that was like a hobby for him, playing basketball. Anyway, Sonny Styles, I love seeing that. I love seeing what Knowles is doing with his defense. Kudos to Jim Knowles. All right, I didn't like. Okay, so we could go on and on about the good stuff, and we will. I don't know why Emeka Egbuka was in there in the second half when they're up 35-3 at halftime. He got banged. He was already playing probably at 70%, and then you have him in there. I would have preferred to not see Emeka in there. Parker Fleming. I mean, we can't go a game without some debauchery. Today wasn't debauchery, just frustrating stuff. So Michigan State does the most obvious fake punt ever, and Ohio State wasn't ready for it. Parker Fleming. Ohio State had to call a timeout when Ohio State was punting. Parker Fleming. It's like, dude, you're not also coaching the running backs. You're not also coaching the offensive line. You're the special teams coach. How does this always happen? I joked. It wasn't even really a joke. I joked on Twitter that if the punt team is on the field, that means something bad must happen for Ohio State because Parker Fleming is coaching that unit, but maybe it wasn't a joke. So our Patrick Murphy tells me that Carson Hinsman was not hurt. So that's good. When I saw Jones in there at center and Vamahi at right guard, I was a little concerned that Hinsman might be hurt. Lincoln Kienholz, good to see Lincoln Kienholz in there. Good to see him in there. Doesn't look too big for him, does it? That kid looks good, and they're going to be able to play him. This is his first game that he played. He can play 3 more games and still redshirt. Love that. You just never know how it's going to work out. And who knows? Maybe they'll need him. I don't know. Has Ohio State ever needed a number 12 who's a third-string quarterback? Oh, yeah. I can think of one. I also can think of one time. I also can think of the best recruiting guy in the business, the dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. Bill, welcome into the show. Before we get your thoughts on recruiting, huge night for recruiting. Your thoughts on this game? Buckeyes dominate the Spartans 38-3, my friend.
Well, as far as I know, the best part was what I was hoping the best part would be: no major injuries. Stay healthy. These 2 games, Minnesota and Michigan State, gonna win them. Gonna win them by 30 to 40 points, I think. Tonight, 35, I guess it was. Stay healthy and go into Ann Arbor ready to go. That's I'm sure you watched the Michigan-Penn State game as I did, and it is going to be a great game when the Buckeyes travel there in 2 weeks.
I know, man. Like, we're less than 2 weeks away. Like, oh, man, I can't wait. I can't wait. All right, let's get into recruiting. Dean, who are the top recruits at the game tonight, and how did it go for them?
Well, great group of recruits. They were pointing to this game. Penn State, Michigan State, the 2 games they were pointing towards. Not Michigan State because of it being a prime time opponent, but being a prime time game. It's always great to have a game at night for recruiting purposes. The kids can get to the games a lot easier. If it's a 12 noon game and you're coming from Florida or you're coming from Texas, it's tough. So as expected, great group of recruits there, official and unofficial visitors. You had 2024 kids that were important kids that were making either an official or unofficial visit. You had Gabe Van Sickle, an offensive lineman that's committed Northwestern, making his official visit this weekend. And you got Chance Robinson, a Miami wide receiver equipment, making his official visit to Ohio State this weekend. And then you've got Amaris Williams. He is a big-time target at defensive end, back for an unofficial visit. He'd already made his official visit. And then, interestingly enough, a guy that we don't talk about too much, but is a very good player, Nicholas Rodriguez. He's a linebacker out of Fort Lauderdale St. Thomas Aquinas High School. Jordan Lyle's teammate, who's committed to Ohio State. Chance Robinson's teammate, who the Buckeyes are trying to flip. Nicholas Rodriguez made it back. He had told me a couple times that he was hoping to make it back for a Ohio State game on an unofficial visit, and he did, in fact, get there. He is committed to Missouri, so that's another one that was there. Then you look at the class of 2025. Some great talent there in the stadium, including Fahim Delane. He's a safety out of Maryland that is one of the best in the country. And then Byron Lewis, a running back out of Florida, who Ohio State really likes a lot. He was at the Ohio State-Penn State game, and he's already back again this weekend. He made the trip this weekend with both of his parents, and certainly a guy to keep in mind as a potential Buckeye.
Any possible commits on the way? I know I'm putting you on the spot there, but any commits on the way, in your opinion?
Well, people always ask me, who do you have on commitment watch? Who's going to commit by the end of the weekend? And I always tell them it doesn't happen that way anymore, almost ever. You almost never have a kid just all of a sudden make a commitment and then actually announce it. The old days, you might have a kid announce his commitment an hour after he gets done with his visit, or maybe the next morning or whatever. Somebody might commit, but they, as you know, Dave, they want to do their edits and their videos and all that. And there's nothing wrong with that. So it usually takes some time to make announcements. But as far as some guys that I think to keep an eye on, mentioned a couple of them already. Gabe Van Sickle, I think he could flip from Northwestern to Ohio State. That would not shock me at all. Chance Robinson, don't know. We'll see how his official visit goes. He's been a Miami commitment for a while. Byron Lewis is another guy. This is his second game day visit in less than a month, and he's traveling from Florida. He's got his parents coming with him. Serious interest there. So he is certainly another one. And then Amaris Williams, the Florida commitment. He is a big-time target, and he wouldn't be back again either. He was also at the Penn State game. That was his last time here, Columbus. But he's another guy. Second time in less than a month coming to Ohio State. He is coming from North Carolina. So he's a guy to keep in mind. I don't know that he's going to announce anything right at this point, but he's a guy that we'll see. He does have an official visit scheduled to Tennessee next weekend. The Buckeyes would like nothing better to see that visit to Knoxville get canceled and him flip from Florida to Ohio State.
Let's talk about Jordan Seaton. I'm worried. I'm nonplussed. What's the latest with the big O tackle?
That's your man, Dave. I think. I know you've been in the, please. It's not like they couldn't use an offensive tackle or two, right? No, the offensive tackle position, as you know, Dave, is a huge priority, and there'd be none better as far as actual ability and talent than Jordan Seaton. But as you also know, Dave, he did not make the trip to Columbus this weekend. He did not make his official visit as has been planned, and that's not a shocker. I've been saying for weeks and weeks that if Ohio State is to have a chance with Jordan Seaton, they've got to get him on campus for an official visit. And even though he's had a visit scheduled here, each time something seems to happen that he doesn't make it. And that is not a good sign. I'm not saying that it is impossible that he still makes a visit, but, you can kind of read the tea leaves that he's just not getting up here to make these visits. So, as I said beforehand, I would take the field against Ohio State in that battle.
And I've heard people say, well, I mean, it's an NIL thing. It's an NIL thing. Like, well, we never hear that with wide receivers. And Brian Hartline doesn't have that problem, right? I mean, that just seems like a BS excuse to me is my point. What do you think?
Well, the NIL is always involved with the high-level kids. There's no doubt about that. You're going to have to give the high-level kids an attractive NIL offer. But as you mentioned, the offers have worked for wide receivers. So while I think that's a factor, I don't think it's by any means the only factor. And again, with Jordan Seaton, he has had, he's changed schools. He went from his high school in Washington, D.C. area to Bradenton IMG, and some schools kind of, as he was changing schools, lost contact with him, and Ohio State being one of them. They kind of backed off their contact with him some. So, there's a lot of things going on there with Jordan Seaton.
I'll get you out of here on this. Bunch of young guys playing for the Buckeyes. Let's talk about the true freshmen. How about Jermaine Matthews? Good seeing Lincoln Keenholtz out there. Jelani Thurman looking like a beast. Man, I asked Ryan Day about it on this previous Tuesday, I didn't think Jelani Thurman would be out there playing. Like, I was just because Ryan Day's talked about lack of depth at tight end. Like, Jelani Thurman could maybe help with that. Great to see some of these true freshmen out there tonight, Bill.
I always think that's one of the fun things is to see the kids that you just saw in high school a matter of months ago playing out there for Ohio State. And when I went and saw Jermaine Matthews last year, I came away ultra impressed. You know, you go to see these cornerbacks and nobody throws at them. And they're just usually, the great corners are just usually locking down their guy. They're not overly excited about going up and making tackles necessarily. Jermaine Matthews was not that way. I mean, that kid in high school, every play, if it was going across the field or if it involved him, he wanted to make that tackle. And he would, if he had to be up near the line of scrimmage to make it, he would go up there in the line of scrimmage and make it. I'm just so happy to see him get to play after what I watched last year, him in high school. And how about Lincoln Keenholz? I think he might have been, 2 for 2 maybe tonight? And I know they weren't long passes, but
he looked like it didn't look like it was too big for him, which is
not
huge.
at all.
Right. Yes.
He looked like, hey, this is what I do. And he was not awed by the situation, and good for Lincoln. I think that was kind of fun to watch.
It's always fun to watch Bill Kurelic do his thing. Thank you to the dean. All right, my friend. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. We'll talk to you soon.
He is the dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. We're going to hear from Jonah Booker in a moment. Pardon me that I'm just now saying this. Happy Veterans Day. Now I'm getting this in. We still have, 59 minutes left here Eastern time. Happy Veterans Day. My dad's probably, my 85-year-old dad is, I'm sure, sleeping by now, or he would smack me in the face for just now saying that. An Air Force veteran himself. But happy Veterans Day. Love you guys and gals who have served our country. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of good. Almost all good. I kind of thought 32.5. I'm like, man, that's because it opened at 28.5. Ohio State was favored by 28.5. And I'm thinking, man, okay. And then it got up to 31.5 pretty quick. Then it was 32.5 today. I'm thinking, geez, are they really going to cover that? Yeah, they did. They did. JBook, I almost had it, my man. I had 41-6. So I had the 35, but I had the 35 margin, but I didn't have the score exactly correct. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. And yourself? Good game tonight. Good game tonight. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. Exactly. I mean, Kyle McCord. Where do you want to start? Let's start with Kyle McCord.
Okay.
Dropping dimes left and right. I love it.
I thought McCord probably played his best game as a Buckeye, Dave. He looked good. The offense was in rhythm. I think they definitely needed this game, Dave. They really needed for him to elevate his game to like the next level, especially as you're getting ready for Michigan. You want to have a good taste in your mouth heading into Minnesota and then have another stellar performance. But overall, I mean, I thought the offense was in rhythm. I'll tell you what, Dave, that 2-minute drive, that 2-minute offense right before the half, beautiful. It was a thing of beauty to see how they were operating, just seeing the offense in rhythm. So I'm happy with the way Kyle McCord looked. I thought he played fantastic.
Marv for Heisman. They like unleashed the campaign earlier this week, and like, man, I mean, what a way to do it. I mean, boom, 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 3 touchdowns before you could blink. I mean, I listen, if they beat Michigan, I think he's going to win it. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need to make a push. I mean, he's absolutely dominant. To me, he's the best college football player in the country right now. I know, when we look at the NFL draft, he's going to go top 5. You're going to get the quarterbacks who are typically going to get the benefit of doubt when it comes to the Heisman. But Marvin Harrison Jr., at minimum, Dave, he should be invited to New York. He is playing fantastic. You're talking about the best wide receiver in all of college football. Double-digit touchdowns on the #1 team in the country. There's no doubt in my mind that he needs to be a Heisman finalist. Now, with that being said, Ohio State and the social media and the media team department, it has to be all hands on deck. Everybody needs to be pushing for him to get his name in the finalists for that Heisman Trophy because he's playing so good, Dave. Like, think about as Ohio State's offense, they're starting to get their rhythm. But before they can even really take those major strides, they're relying on Marvin. I mean, he was pretty much the offense as guys were banged up. Everyone knew he was going to get the football, and he was still lighting people up.
This is the first time I've brought this up on the show. 20 minutes in, let's talk about Harbaugh. Let's talk about Michigan. I mean, I think because you and I did this show, man, time flies, huh? When you're having fun. You and I just did like Buckeyes 35 yesterday, which feels like it was like 3 days ago. And we were like trying to predict what happened. I think we both predicted that it'd be an indefinite suspension for Harbaugh, but nothing major would happen. And that's basically what it is. It's not an indefinite. It's a 3-game suspension. They're trying to get a temporary restraining order. They weren't able to do that today, obviously. Michigan looked good, though. Penn State looked awful.
Yeah.
But the Harbaugh thing is hilarious, man. I mean, if you read the 13-page report, it looks horrible for Michigan.
Yeah, I didn't think the Big Ten was going to come down on him. I was really skeptical after reading that report. Dave, once the NCAA finished with them, I think he's going to get a show cause. I mean, if they put in bold letters in the report that on the conference call with the NCAA, they basically said that we know that you cheated. We have proof that you cheated. You may not have known, but being the head coach of the program, it is your responsibility to actually know. And like we talked about in our show, I truly believe that the coordinators, they should also feel some type of punishment because those are the ones that Manifesto Boy was whispering sweet lyrics in their ear during the side of the games, on the sideline of those games. But yeah, I think that the way, I mean, you look at them, Dave, at Michigan. Yeah, they didn't throw the ball, but you said they looked good. I thought Michigan just looked okay. I mean, Penn State is horrible. I mean, we talked about James Franklin and Drew Aller. Like, Drew Aller is just not ready for big time college football, and JJ was 60 yards passing or so. But yeah, I think there's a Ohio State team, Dave. When you look at this matchup, I'm starting to feel a whole lot better the way Ohio State is looking right now and going into Michigan week. Guys are starting to get back healthy. It's going to be critical to get Josh Proctor and Tommy back and keeping everybody else on the defense healthy.
I should have said, like, I was impressed with Michigan's defense, although Penn State sucks. So maybe I shouldn't be too. That big D tackle for Michigan, though, I can't lie. That big D tackle for that dude is like 370 pounds and he like moves. Like, I love those.
Yeah.
We got one of our own, though. He's not I mean, Tyleek's not that big, but he's big and moves. So I love Tyleek Williams, but that big dude for Michigan's really good. Their D line in general is really good. All right, let's move on. All right. I mean, what do you think about Emeka being in there in the second half? I thought it was clear to me he was already gimpy. Why is he in there in the second half? They led 35-3 at halftime.
Yeah, I didn't understand that one, Dave. It could be a cause that they're trying to continue to get him into the rhythm. I still think he's off. You can tell that his game is not where it was at previously to the injury. So they may be looking to try to knock some rust off of him. But the one thing I will say, Dave, that really made me smile tonight was seeing those young guys get in there. Jelani Thurman's a beast, man. I mean, he is an absolute beast. He is a load, and got to see some Lincoln Keenholds. And then the most important thing, you start to get some live reps for that second string offensive line. And then I took some notes, Dave. 6 yards of pop rushing again, beautiful. I think the offensive line, they're putting together consecutive weeks, starting to play much better. Communications there. You have 3 weeks in a row they're averaging over 5 yards per carry. So you have to feel really good about where the offensive line is at. But Emeka, continue to work him in there. He's definitely not where he needs to be at 100%. I don't think a lot of people in the country are 100% right now, but you can tell that they're trying to gradually bring him into the offense because they're going to need him against Michigan. Because here's the thing against Michigan, they're going to run a bracket coverage against Marvin. They're going to need a Mecca to win those one-on-one matchups. It's going to be critical because you can expect that Marvin's going to draw pretty much double coverage all Michigan games. So they're definitely going to need a Mecca to step up and make some plays.
Yeah, man. I mean, put him on ice till I mean, it's crazy. Again, less than 2 weeks away now. 2 weeks away. Technically less than 2 weeks away hour-wise, but man, I can't wait. All right, let's get into some other stuff. So, I mean, Travion Henderson was looking really, really good to me. I'm glad he got out of there unscathed because he was running hard. As I said earlier in the show before you joined, I was like, man, he was running hard. I'm like kind of, I was like, all right, get him out of there. And they did. So that was good. Travion is looking really good to me, JBook.
Yeah. Yeah, you're breaking up there, but I will say this, Dave. When it comes to Henderson, there you go. Got you back for a second there. Henderson brings just a different dynamic to this offense. The rushing attack looks so much better when he has fresh legs. He's in there bouncing around, making plays, being a dual threat when he's also catching the football. I love the way that Trey's playing it. I think he only had like 13 carries tonight for like 60 plus yards, 62, 63 yards. That's good enough for me, Dave. You know, in this type of game when you're clearly the better football team, you don't need Henderson to have 21, 22 carries in this type of setting here. Let him get in there, pop some pads, get him out of there. He's healthy, ready to go against Minnesota.
Marvin Harrison Jr., if it feels like we started the Heisman campaign on this show, it's because we did, in my opinion. We were talking about when it was 35-1 odds for Marvin to win the Heisman. Like, what is going on here? And ain't 35-1 anymore. Again, I think he's going to win it if he stays healthy the next couple of weeks and they beat Michigan. I think he's going to win the Heisman.
Yeah, I think Vegas dropped his odds at plus 400 in the first quarter after that game. I think it was over like plus 1,000, plus 1,300, something like that going into the game. And then after that first quarter, he's around like plus 400. So the hype is there, Dave. He has the name recognition. He has the star power. He's putting up the stats. What is this like? Besides the Rutgers game, he's hit 100 yards. I think 5 out of the last 6 games or something like ridiculous like that, and pulled him out midway through the third quarter. But Marvin needs to be in New York, Dave. We're gonna push this narrative until the votes are actually cast that he needs to be a Heisman finalist.
We're going to speak it into existence.
1,800 to 1, they saying in here was the odds.
Yeah, I mean, at one point it was 3,500 to 1. I mean, I'm telling you, like it was 35 to 1 at one point. Not that long ago. Like I'm talking like 4 weeks ago. We have the receipts. You can go back and watch the Bucknuts Morning Five. It wasn't that long ago. All right, I'll get you out of here on this defense, man. I mean, I'm talking like this is like sweet nectar for you, man. Talking about the defense, the silver bullets playing like this, man. This is exactly what we wanted to see. I mean, this defense is elite, JBook.
They're good. They're good, and they're playing extremely well. Like I will say this: the secondary is playing outstanding. They're contested everything still without your 2 starting safeties, and I still thought that those young guys got in there, competed, play hard. We got a Jahad Carter sighting in there. I thought he was able to jump in there and play some good football. We got some Gabe Powers and some CJ Hicks in there in the second half, so that was good to see. Tyleik Williams continues to play like an All-American right now. I think Jack Sawyer's actually starting to play some of his best football. He's really starting to get after it, create some pressures. He's doing really well setting the edge, keeping that outside shoulder free. And I will say this, Dave, and we keep talking about Michigan because that's obviously the big thing that's coming up. And every game and how they perform, you're always going to compare it to how would this translate against Michigan. If Ohio State can remain gap sound, and I thought Penn State was doing a decent job, and once they got out of position, that's when they start getting gashed. If Ohio State can remain gap sound with all of their healthy guys to slow down that Michigan rushing attack, if the way the secondary's playing, I think they're going to make JJ have to beat him. You look at last year, JJ really didn't have a great completion percentage against Ohio State. He had those big busts against the secondary, which were critical back-breaking plays. And if the secondary can play it the way they planned all year, Ohio State is going to be an absolute battle. I think this defense is going to do enough to be able to give this offense the opportunity to go up there in Ann Arbor and win that football game.
Great stuff, my friend. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Talk to you next week.
Have a good one.
All right.
He is JBook. He is the one and only Jonah Booker. Great stuff from JBook. Thank you to JBook. Yeah, I mean, we have some people asking about Lathan Ransom. We've had many people. James on YouTube, he says Ransom's done. That's the same thing. I have not confirmed that, but yeah, we'll see. I didn't hear good things. When it happened, I was told maybe back by the Michigan game at the earliest, and now we're hearing maybe there's a lot of smoke out there, could be done, but not confirmed yet. We'll see what happens. I think that's probably a reason they held Josh Proctor out tonight. He got banged up last week. I know he got I bet he could have played tonight. Today was the Michigan game he would have played, but they're probably thinking like, man, we can't lose Lathan and Proc. And if plan B is getting Sonny Styles a lot more snaps, that's a good plan B. And Sonny Styles is out there wrecking shop all game. Tyleik Williams continues to be a great player for this team. So let's go through some of these young guys that showed out. We've talked about Jelani Thurman. Man, I mean, it's like, what took so long, right? Like, where have you been all my life? Like, isn't this what we expected? Like, what's the problem? Like, you've been talking about how there's like a lack of depth at tight end, and tight ends aren't doing this other than Cade. Cade's good, obviously. Great to see Jelani Thurman out there. Now, I'm sure there's things going on that we don't know about. Maybe he's late to meetings or isn't practicing well. You just never know, or isn't blocking well. You never know. But, like, you see a big 6'6", 255-pound true freshman out there just knocking guys around. He looks like an absolute beast. And, again, Lincoln Keenholtz at quarterback. Good seeing him get his Buckeye debut. Not a lot to take away, but I think, if you really like critically think about it, like you watch Lincoln Keenholtz, as we were talking about with Bill Kurelic earlier and JBook, it just kind of looked like he was comfortable. And yeah, I mean, he's up by 35 points. You can say, well, it's easy to look comfortable. Yeah, I don't know about you guys. Not if you're a true freshman at Ohio Stadium. I don't care what the score is. You go out there your first time. Some guys might look like they're, have deer in the headlights. Some guys might look like they belong there. Lincoln Keenholtz looked like he belonged there. Now, we'll see in a few years if that means anything or not. Okay, we won't know, but I don't know, man. There's something just looked like he belonged there. Again, this defense is just – I'm just so impressed with this defense. These DNs, Tuimolo Al, Sawyer, Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry. Again, I mean, Tyleik Williams has been the best defensive lineman on this team. Ty Hamilton had a great game tonight. He's a guy that I don't talk about enough. I've talked up Mike Hall a lot. Ty Hamilton's a guy that I have not talked up. Great game out of Ty Hamilton. All right, you guys fire away with some questions. If you already have, please repost them because I have not seen them. Let's see if there's anything from post-game interviews we need to know about. From Patrick and Steve. Hopefully, no news is good news. Again, I don't know why Emeka was in there in the second half, but, I mean, this was overall. I mean, there's so much good to talk about. So much good. I mean, Kyle McCord, I started the show talking about Kyle McCord. You can't talk about that enough, though. I mean, Kyle McCord, I kept rewinding it. I mean, there was like several times I'm like, damn, that was a good throw. Was that as good as I thought it was? Yeah, it was. Yep. Dime. So kudos to Kyle McCord. He's playing, as Ryan Day said himself after the game, he's playing his best football. The team is playing their best football right now. General Chrome on YouTube, was nice seeing Evan Pryor out there. I agree. Even though it wasn't a lot, it was good seeing number 21 out there. Really good. They're really committing to this, trying to redshirt Dallin Hayden thing, while still probably playing him in 2 more games. The 2 college football playoff games, right? Maybe they're just waiting Michigan game and then saving 1 more for Dallin Hayden. But good seeing Evan Pryor out there. I agree. Well, technical difficulties. Jonathan, we'll get to your question. Jonathan was asking why Devin Brown was not in the game. It's because he got hurt during pregame warmups. He already was dealing with the sprained ankle. It looked like he re-injured his ankle during pregame warmups. There we go. Jonathan on Facebook. Why didn't we see Devin Brown at quarterback? Because he got hurt during warmups. It sounds crazy. It happens in football occasionally. It's not like the craziest thing I've ever heard. I mean, Josh Fryer tore his ACL 2 years ago at Michigan, the 2021 Michigan game. Josh Fryer tore his ACL in warmups. So it's still relatively rare, but I've heard about it. So, yeah, I mean, Brown, and it wasn't like – so Josh Fryer tore his ACL in warmups a couple years ago, and he wasn't even hurt prior. I mean, Devin already had a banged-up ankle, high ankle sprain, which they say takes 4 to 6 weeks to really heal. And they're, this has only been 2 weeks since he got hurt. So they're going to try and bring him back. Got hurt during warmups. That's why we saw Lincoln Kienholz out there. I'm sure it would have been Devin Brown. That's why we saw Lincoln Kienholz. So, yeah, a lot of questions about Lee on YouTube. Why do we have a special teams coach when it seems to be not working? It's horrific, says Lee P on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, there's no excuse at this point. I mean, not that there ever was. I was never making excuses for Parker Fleming. I never understood it. I don't get it. And Ryan Day was asked some really hard questions last week, wasn't he? Wow, a lot about Parker Fleming. So, my guess is, I mean, obviously nothing's going to happen now. I mean, we're like, and entering 11th game of the regular season, but I'll be surprised if Ryan doesn't do something during the offseason. I mean, it's one thing after another now. I mean, that fake punt, I mean, it looked like it was the obvious thing in the world. I mean, you guys got to make – and they were even saying, like, oh, they're in punt safe. Like, were they? Because they got the first down easily. If that's punt safe, I don't want to see punt dangerous if that was punt safe. Punt safe is supposed to mean, like, if they fake, we're going to stuff it. That looked like we're trying to get a return on, even though they have, like, 30 yards to kick. And again, it's like, and then Ohio State had a penalty. Or no, they would have had a penalty on a punt when Ohio State was punting. They had to take a timeout to avoid the penalty. I don't know. And I am of the opinion, unless you have a guy that is like some like special teams ace, that this guy is just a special teams guru. Unless you have that guy, I don't subscribe to you need a full-time special teams coach. Okay, there's just too much evidence. We're not talking about the NFL. In the NFL, you do. NFL teams all have a special teams coach. I'm talking about college. I think that and they already do kind of chip in a little bit. Each position coach should be in charge of different special teams. Boom, 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 boom. You don't need a full-time special teams coach. Okay? Again, unless he's a wizard, which Parker Fleming is not. Glad to know and we're going to confirm this, glad to know that Carson Hinsman's not hurt. When I saw Matt Jones in there and Enoch Vamahi playing right guard, so Enoch Vamahi came in. Matt Jones moved to center. I was worried Hinsman got hurt. Patrick does not think he's hurt, but we'll see what he says about that. Good win for the Buckeyes. Really good win. I mean, Michigan State's not good. They're bad. Let's not sugarcoat it. Michigan State's bad. But win 38-3, and it felt worse than that. Meaning worse for Michigan State. I mean, Ohio State's missing a field goal. Ohio State left points on the board. They dominated that game. 38-3 is probably, if you're Michigan State, you're probably like, yeah, we'll take that. Like, they know they got their ass kicked. We're going to hear from Patrick Murphy and Steve Helwagen soon. They tell me interviews have just wrapped up, so we're going to hear from Patrick soon and Steve. So, yeah, it's interesting when Andrew on YouTube. Andrew on YouTube. I wish we could get more pressure on the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, they don't get a lot of sacks, but like they have a very high pressure rate. Very high pressure rate. I mean, Todd Blackledge was talking about that tonight. One of the highest pressure rates in the country. Not a lot of sacks, but the lowest completion percentage for quarterbacks in the country, defensive completion percentage. So Ohio State number 1 in the country as far as like lowest completion percentage for opposing quarterbacks. You know, they're just, I mean, it's I don't know if unconventional is the right term, but like it is interesting because they're not getting a lot of sacks, but they are pressuring quarterbacks and they're just wrecking passing games. Now, have they faced a good passing team? No, they really haven't. I mean, Western Kentucky for a group of 5 team is a good passing team. Western Kentucky would finish probably last in the Big Ten. I would say I mean, normally I'd say like maybe they'd beat so-and-so. No, I think actually Western Kentucky would finish last in the Big Ten. I mean, I thought Northwestern was going to – how about Northwestern? David Braun should be coach of the year, if not Ryan Day. David Braun, I was impressed with him at Big Ten Media Days. I'm like, oh, my God. That's when everything had just broke with Pat Fitzgerald getting fired. It was like, seriously, like a few days before Big Ten Media Days, and this guy has to get up there, this 30-some-year-old guy that was like FCS level last year at this time, then gets brought to Northwestern. His break as defensive coordinator was a big break for David Braun. And then he's head coach at Northwestern. I'm like, man, this poor guy, like this. And then he was impressive at Big Ten Media Days. I'm like, okay, well, he was impressive at Big Ten Media Days. They're still going to go 2-10. Northwestern sitting there at 5-5. So kudos to them. Kudos to Patrick Murphy. Welcome to the show, Patrick Murphy.
You talking Northwestern?
We bounce around. We bounce around here.
All right.
What we learned live. Yeah, I mean, you came in just in time to talk about Northwestern.
Good.
So your feelings on Northwestern Stadium? No, I'm kidding.
I'm looking forward to the new one. That's for sure.
Are they still doing that?
I think so.
After they have to pay Pat Fitzgerald like $9,000 billion. So you confirmed Carson Hinsman not hurt, right?
Yeah, it didn't look like it. Steve found him on the sideline with his binoculars, and he was just sitting there with the rest of the offensive line that came out. It's an interesting one because they moved Matthew Jones over to center, so maybe it's just to get him some snaps there in case they need him in that position. But it didn't look like he was that he was hurt, and just the way he was interacting on the sideline.
That's good. That's good. All right, from post-game interviews, I'll start with Coach Day. What's your biggest takeaway from what Coach Day had to say?
Yeah, it kind of builds on what we were talking about last week. A question I asked him about, as this offense gets healthier, does he feel like things are starting to come together? And look, it's Michigan State, I know, and I started to write this for our takeaways, but this isn't a terrible defense. I mean, they're only giving up, I think, 29 points a game. Yards wise, I think they're still top 50 in the country. So look, it's not a good defense by any stretch of the imagination, but this is the first time in weeks they've had everybody out there, right? I mean, Cade was back. You had Travion come back the last couple weeks. You had Mecca back, who is still trying to get into a rhythm, I think, after that injury. But I think you're starting to see what they can do. And yeah, you got to do it against better defenses, but with all those weapons, Kyle just said, and I know we're talking about Coach Day, but Kyle just said he's spoiled. And he said that a few times this year with all the guys around him. And so, they did some things schematically today. Like, I really like the 2 running backs there together. And you saw some different things out of that with guys lead blocking, and then the pass to Xavier Johnson when he came out of the backfield. So you're starting to see some things that I think they've been waiting, whether it's just guys haven't been healthy and they've been able to do it, or they've been kind of saving some stuff towards the end of the year. But look, it's November, right? This is when you got to be playing your best football, and it really is looking like, and we'll see in a couple weeks if it's really there, but it's looking like this offense is starting to hit its peak, and guys are really starting to find their groove.
Any word on Mecca? He was in there in the second half. I didn't like that. It already was evident he was not 100%. And then he's in there in the second half, and they're up 35-3. Any word on Mecca? How he looked like he re-injured his leg?
Yeah, I don't know if he re-injured it or if it's just still bugging him. I did see him. No official word. Ryan wasn't asked about him. But I did see him as they were walking off after Carmen, and he was moving okay then. Still pretty heavily taped on that ankle. But like Carmen ended, and he kind of bounced, like to get himself going and sort of took a little slow jog, couple hops towards the tunnel. So, I think probably just running on it over and over again on those routes probably bugs it a little bit. Both receivers are dealing with this, right? These ankle issues. I will be interested to see when Emeka has a 6 catches for 162 yards and a rushing touchdown. Marv's just insane. But he I think he's okay. I think it's just a thing he's going to have to deal with throughout this season. And we know based on what he did last year, and he said this week he'd never missed a game before this season, including growing up, high school, everything. So tough kid. He's going to fight through it. I will update on a few other things. Day said that Tommy Eichenberg, Josh Proctor, going to be game to game. He said those things are not long term, but that Lathan Ransom, as we know, is a little bit more long term. Still don't know if that means he couldn't be back for the Michigan game. I think that's kind of all what we're eyeing. But I did not see him today. That doesn't mean he wasn't here. Obviously, there's a lot of guys, but it does sound like that Tommy and Josh could be back next week. Maybe they give them another week off. I think both probably could have played today. Josh Proctor's obviously, it seems, dealing with concussion stuff, and that can be tricky. But positive, I think that those guys are not going to be any sort of long-term thing.
Kyle McCord looked really good. I mean, I feel like I've been fair to Kyle this year. There's times I'm like, damn, Notre Dame game, like what stones he had that last drive. And there's times of Kyle played really well. And there's like, damn, Kyle cannot play like that. Like that wasn't good. He can't do that. If he does that, they're not going to like achieve their goals. If Kyle McCord plays like this, look the hell out with this defense because, man, it wasn't just as you said, Michigan State their offense isn't good, but they actually have a decent defense.
Yeah.
Kyle McCord was dropping dimes tonight, my friend.
Yeah, easily the best we've seen consistently from Kyle. And we talked about it last week. He starts 11 for 11, not a lot of yards. Then he goes 1 for 5 and throws a pick. And then he finishes 7 for 10. And tonight it was throughout the game. He was playing well throughout the time that he was in there, and probably in there a little bit longer than most people would have liked. I think if Devin Brown is healthier, you probably see him come into the game earlier. But you're absolutely right, Dave. If this is the Kyle McCord that they can get, or closer to this, obviously the defenses will be more difficult down the road, then this offense is going to hum. And today was Marvin's day, but like we said earlier, you've got just all these weapons. I mean, Cade obviously came back, had a big day. He can do that stuff more regularly if Kyle's in a groove, and he's an easy outlet for Kyle. I thought the pass to Marv, the first touchdown pass that they just dropped it right into him, and it was a nice route, nice play by Marv. The deep shot too. I like to see them taking those shots because they haven't done that a ton this year. But yeah, if you can get more of this from Kyle McCord and he's starting to figure it out, then this is the progression we've been talking about, right? And it's one game where he looks really good. We need to see it again next week against Minnesota, and then you need to see positive things against Michigan, obviously. But I think you can be happy about what you've seen tonight.
We'll get you out of here on this. A lot of true freshmen. Lincoln Keenholtz obviously making his debut. We've seen a lot of Jermaine Matthews. I mean, he's started last week. Jermaine Matthews, Malik Hartford, Jelani Thurman, I think, is a guy like Thurman Burger. I'm going to be okay if he plays a little bit more. Getting into some of these true freshmen before we bring in Steve Helwagen.
Yeah, it's good to see. And I asked Coach Day about, I made the mistake of saying, what do you guys take out of this when the game's not competitive? And he was quick to be like, oh, it's still competitive for these guys. They work hard in practice to get these opportunities, and they have to take advantage of them. He pointed to Calvin Simpson-Hunt as a guy that flashed, saying specifically that screen pass that he went and made the tackle on. He said, look, these are the opportunities for these guys. You see plays like this. That's what happened with Carnell Tate early on in spring. They started to see him flash when he got some opportunities with receivers out. Now, obviously, that was in practice. But this is the opportunity for these young players to go out and you do it in practice. You earn a few snaps in a game. Oh, okay. Now you've shown something in a game, right? And it's a little different than you're doing it in practice. Okay, maybe you get a few more snaps next time, and then you work your way into a bigger role. So, I always think, I know a lot of people, and not people that are probably still on here at whatever time this is, but a lot of the more casual fans will generally tune out once the game is over and done score-wise. But I always think that's a really interesting time to pay attention to what those guys are doing. And, we get the opportunity to come down here in the fourth quarter, and I walked over to the Michigan State sideline because there were a lot fewer people over here, just to kind of see that last drive, look at how Lincoln was commanding things in the huddle. And it was only 3 snaps or whatever, but, you can see that there's a reason why they're excited about him. And, you've got something there, I think, even for a guy who maybe hasn't played football at the highest level. So a lot of positives to get those freshmen, your young guys in there and see what they've got.
I lied to you. We got to hear from the people. Neil
That's
on
fine.
Facebook wants to know, Murph, what's up with Mike Hall?
That's Neil on YouTube, Dave. Neil on YouTube.
What did I say, Facebook?
You said Facebook. It's fine.
YouTube. Sorry.
Yeah, look, I think Mike Hall came into the season as the name on the in the interior of the defensive line, and so he gets a lot of attention. I think it's helped open up things for other guys. I think when we've talked to him, he's talked about not caring so much about the stats. I think he's still doing a good job. Grading out wise, I think he probably grades out well each week in terms of doing his job. The numbers aren't probably what we expected, but I think that's true across the defensive line. I don't think you would have expected the lack of sacks for the ends, the production from some of the other guys in the middle. So, I think it's just kind of a collective unit, and maybe they're not the flashiest thing. They didn't get a ton of pressure today in terms of getting to the quarterback, but they made him feel uncomfortable, and they made him step up in the pocket, and you saw some plays made up because of that. So I still think he's doing what he needs to do out there. You'd love to see him be putting up the numbers everyone kind of thought when they were throwing out things like baby Aaron Donald. But, if you're doing your job and the defense as a whole is successful, I think everyone will take that.
Great stuff out of Patrick Murphy. Don't illegally steal any signs, my friend.
All right. I don't see any around here. So maybe a beer if I can find one.
There you go.
All right. See you, Dave.
Good stuff out of Patrick Murphy. Let's bring in Steve Helwagen, also live from the Ohio Stadium. Steve, your main takeaway from this big win tonight for Ohio State. Big meaning, they kicked Michigan State's ass. Big.
Yeah, I want to say first off, in my game story, I have it in there that Ohio State is 10-0 to start a season for the second year in a row and for the 14th time in the last 56 years. And the first time it ever happened was in 1968 when they went 10-0 and won the national championship. I know they were 32.5-point favorite when it finally closed at 7:30 tonight. So this was expected when we all woke up this morning, and it certainly materialized the same way. But 14th time in 56 years that they are 10-0, and that is a tremendous, tremendous accomplishment, I think, for this team. They're one of 5 teams nationally that have made it to this point at 10-0, and they are right there in the hunt, and they are putting it together at the right time. I know Michigan State is, going through a really, really awful year, but I saw things that I really liked today in terms of Kyle McCord, the way he stuck to his business and the way that he played to put up the numbers that he did, even against air, would have been impressive. But to have at least a few living, breathing people out there in white jerseys against them and to produce the kind of numbers that he did was outstanding today, and another step forward for him. Marvin Harrison Jr. takes one more giant leap toward New York City, 3 more touchdowns for him. Wow. And I think that first one had John Heisman written all over that. The Heisman moment of having one with a running play was ingenious, let's just say. This was what you wanted it to be. I mean, could the backups have scored a touchdown in the second half and made you feel a little bit better about it? Yeah, maybe, but, it's 35-3. The game's over. Michigan State can't get a first down. So, and, again, defense, Michigan State never ran a play inside the Ohio State 34-yard line. Just stop and contemplate that. So, lights out all the way across the board, just as it had to be. No more pricking around. No more screwing around. The preliminaries are over. No more crappy half against Rutgers, lights out half against Rutgers. This was what it had to be tonight, and very impressed with everything that I saw. Defense playing 3 men down. No Eichenberg, no Ransom. Sounds like Ransom is done for the foreseeable future. Coach Day said that's long-term. Tommy Eichenberg and I want to say Denzel Burke are short-term. Proctor and Eichenberg are short-term week to week. No prognosis on Burke. I question mark on Burke, but that's what we know about the injuries right now.
You know, it's crazy. Like, how about the drama with head coaches from the 2 Michigan schools this year? We thought Mel Tucker would be the most interesting of the dramatic head coaching situations. No, Jim Harbaugh, I think maybe has trumped that. I don't know how you even rank those, but what do you think about this Harbaugh stuff, man? There was a lot of smoke this morning. They were going to get a temporary restraining order. They did not.
Spish. That's what I think about it.
What's that?
I said spish. That's what I think about it. It's just a lot of hooey, come on. People are making it up as they go. I mean, it's all hogwash. And you know what? All the TV shows today tried to bat it back and forth and whatever. Josh Berry came correct on NBC when, they had the emotion of whoever that was that coached Michigan today. The guy's crying after the game. And Josh Perry just came straight correct on NBC and said, I don't feel sorry for none of them. They cheated. They put themselves in that position. And bull with a big fat crap on top of it is what I have to say about that. There's going to be a hearing on Friday in a court in Michigan. And I want the judge to ask the question of the lawyers and the people from Michigan, Ward Manuel, whoever may get on the stand to testify and say, it's been alleged that you broke some NCAA rules here. What do you say to that? What do you say to that? Because I think they need to answer that question before on the merits of whether there should be an injunction to grant them relief on Harbaugh. Do you deserve an injunction? Or did you actually break some NCAA and Big Ten rules and they came down on your ass because of it? And here's another thought, Dave. Why don't you just be bleep happy that they didn't rule you ineligible, that you can still play in the Big Ten championship game?
Yep.
And yet they have to be indignant for their fan base. They have to put up the fight because if they rolled over, they'd lose their fan base. So they have to make it look good that they're putting up a fight. This poor judge in Michigan, if this person it's so confusing. Nobody knows if it's the man judge or the woman judge. Who the hell is it? I don't even know. If this person doesn't grant this injunction, they're going to bomb their house.
You already had somebody trying to dox Tony Petitti. Thank goodness they took it down.
Why does a Michigan court
There was a Michigan message board. They were trying to dox Tony Petitti. Go ahead.
Why does a Michigan court have standing on a matter involving the Big Ten, which is based in 11 different states? I don't get that. I don't. That should be
good luck. I mean, they can do whatever they want. It's deflecting. I've read the 13-page report twice now.
That's goddamn damning. Pretty damning.
It's incredibly damning. Like this is like
damning.
This is like the first small little domino that has fallen. Harbaugh's suspension. I'm telling you, Petitti's language in there, he is not to be messed with, and he came down hard on Michigan as far as his language. Like he was basically foreshadowing, like, we're doing this for now. We're gonna suspend Harbaugh, but worse stuff is coming. Like really, really bad stuff is coming. Really bad.
Good for them. And that's how it should be.
Let me ask you this.
They cheated the whole league. They cheated 13 other schools. They were going to scout 8 Ohio State games. On their spreadsheet, they had 8. I know none of you give a crap about Michigan. I get that. But, they were going to scout Ohio State 8 times. I give them all the credit in the world. They went out today and they beat Penn State's ass with a board. There's just no two ways about that. I mean, they made Penn State look awful. Penn State's offense, the 3 coaching decisions by Franklin, 1 to chase the 2-point conversion in the first half, 1 to go for it on 4th down at the 30-yard line, and then to go for the 2-point conversion when you're down 9 with 2 minutes to go. Wrong, and wrong, because you kick the extra point with 2 minutes to go, and then you either kick it off with your 2 timeouts and hope you get it back, or you onside kick and hope you recover it. But it's an 8-point game and you're still in it. When they didn't get it with 2 minutes to go, the game was over. There was no coming back from that. So he made 3 critical mistakes, and now he's 1-12 against top 5 teams. And he may never beat one if he coaches in a game like that.
That was awful. Let's get you out of here
Pathetic.
on this. Back on Facebook. Did anybody ask about special teams during the press conference?
Oh,
now,
my God.
Ryan Day was grilled about Parker Fleming on Tuesday.
Oh, my God. The hits just
interesting.
keep on coming. Missed field goal, and what was the other thing?
I mean, the most obvious fake punt ever. Ohio State fell asleep.
Yeah.
And allegedly they were in punt safe. Allegedly they were in punt. That's punt safe. I don't want to see punt dangerous.
Well, the only thing I'll say is
Ohio
Michigan
had to take
State
a
needed.
timeout because they would have got a penalty on a punt. It's like there's not even that many plays, Parker. We're talking about like 10 plays a game. Like, figure it out, buddy.
You could tell Dave was a little exasperated having to call that timeout. I will on the fake punt. I'll say this: the quarterback on the scramble on 3rd down, he was this short. I mean, like they only needed a few inches. You know, as long when the up back catches it with a full head of steam, he's probably going to get 4 inches. So, bully for them. They got it. But, yeah, that just add that to the pile of mistakes on special teams. No doubt. No, it never came up because Dave was in and out. It's midnight and, in and out. So,
yeah, for people that don't know, it's not an extensive press conference after game. Most of you probably know that. It's like 5, as Steve's saying, in and out, 5 minutes. Tuesday is when the questions happen. He's in there for over a half hour with us, and he got grilled last week about Parker Fleming, which was interesting. All right, Steve, get back to work, my friend. Thank you for your time, sir.
Yep, posting the Coach Dave video right now for everybody who wants to watch it.
There you go. Thanks, Steve.
All right, buddy.
Keep Patrick out of trouble for me. There you go. Steve liked that one. He's like laughing. I can see him laughing. You guys can't see him laughing. I can see him laughing. All right. Any further questions? Any further questions, Your Honor? Oh, man. My Sharona. It is ridiculous that like Sharon Moore's out there. I mean, we have evidence of Connor Stallions like talking to Jesse Minter in his ear right before plays happen during games, and Sharon Moore, and those guys aren't suspended. Again, though, I think Tony Petitti did everything that maybe not everything he could, but like he still his hands weren't tied, but he didn't have full range. I'll put it that way. The NCAA is going to come down hard on them. I think he kind of did everything he could. There's no way they were going to cancel the game. Fox would never let that happen. And frankly, I'm glad it's not canceled. I want that game. I want to play that game in 2 weeks. And we're going to play that game in 2 weeks. Will Harbaugh be on the sideline? Not if Tony Petitti's ruling stands. We'll see if they get a temporary restraining order. I don't think they will. I mean, again, I have it linked on my Twitter feed, or you can just do a Google search for it or go on Bucknuts or message board. The 13-page report, which isn't as daunting as it sounds. It's probably like a 15-minute read. There is some legalese in there, but Petitti wrote it himself. I'm sure he's a lawyer. He's a graduate of Harvard Law. I'm sure other people helped him craft it. But it's written in first person. And for a legal document, it's actually somewhat easy to read. I kind of like legal documents anyway. This isn't like some 60-page document. 13 pages might sound like a lot. It's not that bad. It's like 15 minutes. And I'm telling you, you'll just love it. It's unbelievable. I mean, he's just taking no prisoners, just verbally, or I guess written, like hammering Michigan throughout this report, foreshadowing that bad things are coming for them. And it just makes them look pathetic because he's talking about how, your excuse doesn't hold water. It's everybody else is doing it. No, that's not a real excuse. They never deny that they were actually cheating. They were just trying to do argue about procedures and things like that. So it makes Michigan look really bad. But all right, good job by the Buckeyes, 38-3. Great job by the Buckeyes. Great job. I mean, fantastic. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. That's about as close as you're going to get, though. Just kudos to the Buckeyes. They're playing their best football in November. Keep it going. Keep it going, baby. It looks like it's going to be Iowa winning the JV division. So Buckeyes beat Michigan in 2 weeks. They're going to be playing the Hawkeyes for the Big Ten championship. Thank God the last year of the Big Ten JV division. It's crazy. This is such a weird year of college football. Final year of the 14 playoff. Final year of the Big Ten without Pacific Coast teams in the Big Ten. It's crazy. So we're going to go to a 12-team playoff next year, and we're going to have USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington all in the Big Ten. It's crazy. All right, my friends. I appreciate you guys riding with me tonight. You guys are awesome. I appreciate all my guests tonight. Thank you to the Dean of Ohio State Football Recruiting, Bill Kurelic. Thank you to Jonah Booker. Thank you to Patrick Murphy, and thank you to Steve Helwagen. And again, thank you to all of you. I appreciate it very much. Hope everyone has a great rest of your weekend.